how do you feel about the prospects at Copenhagen? And one of the environmental leaders said, well, I feel fine. And it reminded me of a story that I heard literally 30 years ago when I represented a rural agricultural district in Middle Tennessee, running from the Kentucky border to the Alabama border. And I used to do town hall meetings all the time, and I was driving back to my home in Carthage, Tennessee one Saturday night after having 5 town hall meetings that day. And I had the car radio tuned to the Grand Ole Opry. And I know that there are not that many country music fans here in Los Angeles. But, well, I know, I kind of underplayed that. There are a few. And the CMA Awards were last night, and this phenomenon, Taylor Swift, ran away with it. But anyway, back in those days, and she's great, by the way, but really. But Nashville is a community of songwriters, in part, and one of my closest buddies in Nashville writes some of her songs. But anyway, 30 years ago, there was a legendary figure on the Grand Ole Opry named Cousin Minnie Pearl from Grinders Switch. And her real name was Sarah Cannon, and she was a lovely person and really a pillar of the community, a great lady. And but her character was just unbelievable. Cousin Minnie Pearl, she'd always say, howdy. And she was the one that wore the old hat with the price tag still on it. And I was listening to the car radio, and she told this story. And it was about a farmer who had been involved in an accident. And he sued for damages, and the driver of the other vehicle got a lawyer and took this and put the farmer on the witness stand to cross-examine him. And the lawyer said, now isn't it true that immediately after this accident you said, I feel fine? And the farmer said, well, it's not that simple. You see, I was taking my cow to town in the back of my truck, and this feller came driving across the center line, and the lawyer said, wait a minute. Your Honor, I object. We don't want to hear a long, involved story. We're in the middle of a trial here. Just answer the question, yes or no. Did you or did you not say immediately after the accident, I feel fine? Farmer said, well, I was leading up to that. You see, I was driving my cow to town in the back of the truck, and this feller came driving across the center line and ran right smack dab into my truck and knocked it over. Threw me out, threw the cow out. I was on one side and the cow was on the other. The highway patrolman came up and took one look at that cow and said, she is suffering. Pulled out his gun and shot her right between the eyes. Came around to my side of the truck and said, how do you feel? I said, I feel fine. The alternative to not getting an agreement at Copenhagen is unacceptable, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so proud that my son is here this evening, and we get a chance to hang out a good bit, but since he's a Los Angelino, when I'm out here, I always look forward to that. I want to talk about this book, Our Choice, available from Rodale Press, 2695. But 3.5 years ago, An Inconvenient Truth focused mainly 90% on the climate crisis, on the impacts of the climate crisis and the causes of the climate crisis, and then 10% giving a broad brush overview of what the solutions are. 3.5 years later, the consciousness of the crisis has grown considerably around the world, including in our country. And the debate over how we can solve it has picked up some speed. And I have spent the last 3 years conducting a series, more than 30 so-called solution summits, where the world's leading experts on the various solutions that have to be a part of any sensible plan to solve the crisis have been willing to come together and patiently explain to me what they're talking about, and then go back over it slowly in language that I can absorb and therefore can use in order to try to communicate these solutions to a broad audience. And I'm very grateful to these scientists and experts. They're all listed in the back of the book. And this book really is made up of their insights and their tremendous experience and knowledge and expertise. And by the way, the overall learning experience that I had in researching and writing this book was to develop a very deep conviction that we really do have enough solutions and tools to solve 3 or 4 climate crises. And the good news is we only have to solve one. But the missing ingredient is sufficient political will to make a choice to really get our arms around this, recognize how high the stakes are, recognize that the present generation, those of us alive in this extraordinary time, have a moral obligation to ourselves, but also to all generations that come after us. If we were to decide to simply reap the benefits of all of the incredible sacrifices that previous generations have made, all of the hard work that previous generations have performed to build the civilization that we enjoy, and then give the back of our hand to all generations coming after us, that would be the single most immoral act of any generation that has ever lived on this planet. That is it really is not a political issue. It seems to be at times. It has become infused in our country with way too much partisanship, but it's not a political issue. It is a moral issue. It is an ethical issue. In many ways, Rabbi, it is, in my opinion, a spiritual issue. If we were to make that decision not to accept the responsibility that these circumstances have thrust upon the present generation, it would say something about what it means to be a human. It would say that the limitations that we carry within us are ones that we turned out not to be capable of transcending. And in a real sense, the passion that I feel for this issue comes from my very deep belief that that's not who we are. I don't believe for a minute that that's who we are. But in order to recognize who we are and what our circumstances demand of us, we have to escape the distractions. We have to break free of the thrall of this culture of distraction. Not to make too much of this, but one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln, when he was struggling against slavery in the midst of the Civil War, he wrote, he was the greatest American writer of speeches aimed at persuading people. And he wrote a beautiful sentence that all of you have heard. He said, "We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we will save our country." Thrall sounds like an old English word. It means to be imprisoned mentally by illusions. And of course we all are from time to time, too much of the time, I guess. The average American now watches 5 hours of television per day. I do the calculation in this book, and what that means is that in the average lifespan of an average American, we spend an uninterrupted 17 years watching television.